So here are some sheep. They're not my sheep. I hope they don't mind. If these were my sheep, they would know me, they would recognize me, and they would follow me. These are likely to run away.
The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me by still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in paths of righteousness, even for his name's sake. And even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for he is with me. His rod and his staff, they comfort me. He prepares a table for me in the presence of my enemies. He anoints my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy will follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever.
We're all used to these programs on TV where there's one man and his dog, and he has all sorts of amazing commands to the dog, and the dog goes behind them and kind of scares the sheep a little bit into moving where the shepherd wants them to go. That's not how it works. It's not how it works in the Middle East now. It's not how it works in Eastern Europe now. It's not how it worked in Jesus' day. When David was a shepherd, he led the sheep. He went in front of them. That meant this: when there was dodgy ground, it's the shepherd who got there first. The shepherd took the risk. Is the ground safe?
I was on a walking holiday with a friend recently in the Lake District. He's fitter than me and he's slightly taller. That means that his stride length is slightly longer than mine. Well, we were out walking and he knew the way and therefore very sensibly led off. It was good that he was leading. As I say, he knew the way. It meant that he could search out the best route. He could test the ground ahead of me. He could find the path that was least of a scramble, more likely to be within my limited capabilities. But the problem was that he's fitter than me and his stride length is longer. And that meant that before long he was getting quite a distance ahead, not with any desire to leave me behind, just out of the simple reality of the situation. He knew the way, he was faster and fitter. Well, that meant of course that I was having to overstride, and even though the ground was tested and good, nonetheless it meant that I was at risk of slipping, not taking enough care, overstretching simply in order to keep up, and so we had a conversation. Well, it says that Jesus is our good shepherd, and I want to suggest that one of the things that he does in order to be that good shepherd is he adjusts his stride length. He adjusts the route with the full knowledge of who we are, and with no thought to his own agenda or his own preference or his own timescale necessarily. He adjusts his stride length to perfectly match what he knows we are capable of. Something that won't exhaust us, something that won't cause us to take undue risks, but a length that allows for him to be with us and have fellowship with us along the way, talking, sharing, enjoying the view. This is remarkable. He's God, and yet he takes full cognizance of where we're at in life, our experience, the baggage that perhaps we're carrying. And he takes all of that into account, and he adjusts his stride length so that you can keep up, so that you can be safe, because he is the good shepherd.
The shepherd had the agenda. He led the sheep. where they needed to go, into the green pastures, to the place the shepherd knew was the best for the sheep. The sheep hadn't got a clue. The sheep had all sorts of plans for themselves, but the shepherd knew where the best grazing was. He knew the time when they needed to drink. He knew where the water was in those dry places. He went there.
Is not that life will be simple or smooth. Yes, there will be times that we go past green pastures and they're beautiful and wonderful and redolent of spring and beauty and calm and peace. And yes, there will be times of going past still waters that are beautiful with their reflections and the sunlight dancing off of them. But notice too, the paths of right choices will occasionally take us through shadowy valleys. Shadowy valleys in which everything is very fearful. We recall that the enemy is described as like a roaring lion. Not actually a roaring lion, but it's the shadow of a roaring lion. And so often the things that we become paralyzed by, the shadows in those valleys, are not the actuality, not the reality, but the illusion, the thought of, the anxiety of, the fear of. And in those circumstances we need help out of those places.
He's got a kind of staff, and he can use that to encourage the sheep. We don't think of encouragement in this form very much. We think of encouragement about saying nice things to people. But actually the encouragement that the sheep sometimes need is a little gentle tap on their rear parts. And they do that to get them out of danger, because sheep freeze. David says that they walk in shadowy valleys. And sometimes the shadows frighten us, don't they? And sometimes what we need is that little tap from behind to move us.
But whether the paths of righteousness take us through the wonderful places that we would all vote for, or the difficult places that we would perhaps prefer to avoid, here's the consequence. Surely goodness and mercy will follow me all the days of my life, like a ship going through the water, leaving a wake. The wake that will be in our life as we follow the Good Shepherd through paths of righteousness is that goodness and mercy will follow us, and those around us will be washed by the wake of goodness and mercy.
And at night, when the wolves came, when the bears came, when the lions came, it's the shepherd that stood between the danger and the sheep. He took the risk. He is the Good Shepherd.
The sheep, of course, have many predators. The wolves, the bears, the lions that David spoke of so often. And of course it's the shepherd who stands between the sheep and the danger. So often in life we have enemies, people that we don't quite know why they dislike us so much. We can't think of anything specific that we have done or said that should result in such abuse, such unfriendly behaviour towards us, such vindictiveness sometimes. And we've done what we can. We have prayed for them, we have sought resolution, and yet still they seem antagonistic towards us. Well, sometimes those things are resolved. Sometimes forgiveness and mercy, goodness and mercy, overflow them and dissolves whatever it was that was underpinning their dislike. But other times evil has its way, and we never do discover that, and they seem to continue to go along and cause us trouble. It seems unjust, and indeed it is unjust. Jesus said, I can promise you this, there will be persecution in life. If you make right choices, if you follow the shepherd, well, it will lead to where the shepherd went. Jesus said to Peter, one day, if you follow me, you'll be taken where you don't want to go, and you will spread out your arms, just as I have done. But David in this psalm gives us something wonderful to look forward to, something perhaps that we would shy away from, and yet our shepherd longs for it for us. He creates this extraordinary banquet, and he himself serves us and vindicates us, and he does so in the presence of all those who have ever hurt you and who have not sought forgiveness, all those who have abused you and have not responded to your love, all those who have falsely accused you and have not responded to your mercy, to all those who stand outside God's grace, who opposed you. There will be justice, there will be vindication. He sets a table in the presence of your enemies and serves you a banquet. He is the Good Shepherd.